Okay, we're starting Chapter 2 on some basics in Excel. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of this. So how do we write a model in Excel? So here we have a very simple linear demand function. Demand equals A minus B times P, where P is the price. So A, our fixed, is 20,000 and B is 10,000. So if we wanted to calculate the demand, we would just say equals sign, which tells Excel that we want a function in here. A, so we'd say plus A minus, and I don't really need the parentheses because B times 80. The reason I don't need the parentheses is because order of operations is going to do multiplication first and then the addition and subtraction. So that gives me that, 19,000. And if I want to fill it down, I can grab this corner and fill down. But I don't really, that gives me some strange answers, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But let me show you another way to fill down. If you have trouble grabbing that corner, you can always go up here and say fill down. And again, this just says undo. And the reason that I got such screwy answers there is because Excel is going to assume I want to keep going all the way down. And what I want to do with this A and B is fix it. It's called an absolute address. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here, and the ones that I don't want to change, like I'm going to put dollar signs, like my B. I want that cell to be constant along with my B9. And of course, I want my 80, my cell A12, to be a relative. So I want that to change because I want, when I go down to the next cell, it to be 90. But I want these two numbers to be fixed. So now when I copy it down, you'll see I get a good demand function. And a couple other handy things is raise it to a power. Remember to put it in parentheses if you have order of operations. If I want to make a chart of this, I can highlight the area. I can say insert, scatter plot is usually pretty good. And there I have a plot of a demand function. And I can resize it or whatever. So that's how you do a lot of implementing a model in Excel. You can do a lot of examples. Let's talk a little bit about some different Excel functions. Some basic ones. You've got some basic statistics, minimum, maximum, count if. Let me erase all these so you see how they work. I just throw out here 10 test scores. So if I wanted to find the minimum, I go up here and I say function. And now I look here, I don't want logical functions. These are all statistical functions. So let's go to statistical. And what do we have here? First we want the min. Now you're going to be a little intimidating because there's so many, but that's okay. Minimum, now it wants me to set my range. It's got to, Excel says, well, which minimum you want me to take? So I got to tell it. And there it gives me 56. And as you can see in these numbers, the minimum is the 56. Max works much the same way. I just go down to max. And again, Excel is going to ask me over what range. And I say, over this range right here. Thank you very much. And I say, OK. And 98. I can do sum, I can do average, I can do count. I can do count if is kind of an interesting one. Let me do that one for you. Count will just give me the total in the array, which is 10. But I can do count if, and I can say what's the range, and I can say right here is my range. And I was going to say what criteria. Well, let's say I wanted to see everybody that got a score greater than 85, or know how many got a score greater than 85. Oh, 4 people got a score greater than 85. Average works much the same way. Just say the average. It's going to say over what array. Hopefully you're beginning to see how powerful this can be. The average was 80. So that's some basic statistical functions. It also has some basic mathematical functions. Let me take the answer out of the way. Here is, sometimes you do a net present value, which means if the original cost was $25,000, and I had savings of earnings over a 5-year period of this, you can see my total savings is $27,000. My total costs are $25,000. So intuitively, you might think it's a great deal, but for those financial folks, remember the time value of money. So if we assume interest is 4% as a discount rate, it might be nice to have Excel figure out whether this is really a good value or not. So again, we go to functions, and again, it's not a statistical, this is a financial one. And you can always search for it if you don't know where it is. Excel is very user-friendly. You just got to play around with it. Hit the net present value. Now I was going to say, what's the rate? Well, a couple ways I can do this. I could just say, there's my rate right there. What's my values? There we go right there. There's my set of values, my cash flows. And I say, okay. And the net present value of those cash flows discounted at 4% is 23. So I probably wouldn't. It's not such a great deal. So that's a net present value. We also have a lot of logic functions. So if, and, or. So here again are the test scores, and here are the attendance records. So let's say I wanted to know if, I want to display them if I want their email so I can send them a congratulatory letter. Again, I'm looking for a logic function now. I come down here to if, and I'm going to say if the test score is greater than 90. So if that's true, I want to grab their email and send it to them. Otherwise, I just want to say false. Well, the first one's false. Again, I can drag it all down. You can see I got a couple emails here where their test score was over 90. The rest are all false. I could do and, right? Maybe I want to do, again, I go to function, logic. I could say and. So two things have to be true. So let's say I want test scores greater than 90, and I want, in the second logical test, I want attendance to be greater than 90. Okay, and let's see, so it's false, false. I have one true. There you can see both 90. And you can do the same thing for or, etc. The next one is sort of lookup things. I can do what's called a Vlookup. I can, here what I did is I looked up the number 10. Well, let me show it to you here. If I go, let me erase this for you. Let's say I want to do a function, and these are all lookup and reference functions. Now V stands for vertical, so I'm doing a vertical lookup. So I want to find the score. I want to find a specific score. Let's say 10,0007. And the array that I'm taking it from is all of this. The array is all of this, right? And my column index number is column number 1. It's going to tell me 1077. But let's say I wanted to know what the how much I knew customer ID. I wanted to know how much they bought. That would be column 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now I'm going to get the dollar amount, $18.11. It allows me to take a customer number and look up the amount they purchased or the time, whatever I want to look up. Lookup just does it horizontally. You can do an index, you can match things, all sorts of stuff you can begin to look up. A couple of add-in packages that we talked about. Analysis pack, you go to options, add-ins, analysis pack, hit go, and you can check the solve in and all of those. Let's do an example of an outsourcing decision. Here are my fixed costs, $50,000. My variable costs, $125,000. Or I could purchase from the supplier for $175 per unit, and my production volume is 1,000. So if I calculate, let's say my production value is 1,500. So down here I'm going to calculate this by saying my manufacturing costs equal my fixed cost plus my variable unit cost times the number of units I produce. My total purchase cost, there will be no fixed cost because I'm purchasing them all outside, $175 times my 1,500. And then I just set this equal this minus this. And if it's negative, I'm going to manufacture myself. If it's positive, I'm going to outsource. So down here, what I did, let me get this out of your way, is I just did an if statement in here. I said, all right, let's do a logic test so it actually gives me an answer. Logic, if this cell is less than or equal to 0, less than or equal to 0, well then I'm going to put brackets. If that's the case, I want to manufacture. And the reason I'm putting these exclamation points is that tells Excel that I'm dealing with a characters. Down here I can say outsource. I didn't spell it right, but I'm not going to worry. So, and you can see at very different models, like that's, if I change the volume now, it's going to say outsource. And I can play around with this to find the perfect amount. Or if I was really slick, one thing you could do, another tool you could do is you could say, you know what, I want a data what if. I want a goal seek. I want that cell equal to 0 so that I know exactly where my decision point is by changing my units production. And then I could just hit this, and it tells me at 1,000 units I'm indifferent. That comes in handy. One last thing, the same example, I could use Risk Solver also to do the same thing. I could come up here and I could say data solver, I want that cell at a value of 0. Solve it for me. And it's going to force the production volume to 1,000. Anyways, that's some introduction to Excel. Any questions, let me know.